Welcome to Pillowtime Lore, a quiet little haven where the world slows down and stories come to life just as the night settles in. Maybe you remember being a child, curled up under a soft blanket while your mom or dad sat beside you, their voice gentle and soothing. The day's troubles didn't matter then. The only thing that existed was the safety of their words, the warmth of their touch, and the promise that everything would be all right by morning. Perhaps you can still recall the way they'd caress your hair or hum a lullaby as your eyelids grew heavy. Those moments stay with us, tucked deep inside our hearts. Even as we grow older, here at Pillowtime Lore, we try to bring that same feeling back, that comforting sense of being cared for, of letting go, of slipping into dreams without a worry in the world. For some of you, today might have been long and exhausting. Maybe it didn't go as planned, or maybe the world just felt a little too loud. That's okay. This is your time now. Think of me as a cozy old grandma, sitting in a rocking chair by the fire, speaking softly as you settle in and let the day melt away. Each story we share is like a soft, warm blanket for the soul, filled with wonder, magic, and peace. So snuggle in, close your eyes, and let the words carry you to a place where worries can't follow. Welcome to Pillowtime Lore, where every night ends with comfort, and every story feels like home. Ah, my dear, come sit close, and let me tell you about 4 sisters who were as different as they were bound together. Clara, the eldest, thoughtful and steady, carried stories in her heart that she longed to share with the world. Rose, full of fire and color, saw life in shades and patterns that made even ordinary days beautiful. Elise, cheerful and spirited, dreamed of bringing warmth and sweetness to others through her baking. And little June, tender and curious, carried hope in her eyes and joy in her small, gentle hands. Their home was humble, nestled in the quiet of a snow-kissed town, where days were often hard and their father's absence was deeply felt. Yet despite the cold, the girls found warmth in each other, in their laughter. In the little moments where dreams and imagination met, they would sit by the fire, sharing hopes for the future, comforting each other, and finding courage in each other's company. Their love was quiet but powerful, a bond that could carry them through loneliness, fear, or uncertainty. And through it all, their hearts were open to the world, curious and kind, ready to face life together. This story is not just about the adventures they will encounter, but about the love that binds them, the choices that shape them, and the dreams they nurture, even in difficult times. It is a tale of hope, of courage, and of family, and it invites you, my dear, to step into their world, to walk beside them through cold winter nights and warm, quiet mornings, and to feel the strength of their hearts as they learn, grow, and discover the beauty of being together. The night was bitterly cold, snowflakes drifting gently past the small window of a modest wooden house. Inside, 4 sisters huddled close around a crackling fire, their thin blankets wrapped tightly around their shoulders. Clara, the eldest, sat straight and calm, her eyes shining with quiet determination beside her. Rose sketched little shapes in the frost on the window with her finger. Elise fiddled nervously with a fraying piece of cloth, while June, the youngest, sat curled up on the rug, staring into the flames as if willing them to bring warmth and their father home. Their mother moved about the small room, her hands busy mending clothes, though her face betrayed her exhaustion. Since their father left to serve in the army, she had worked tirelessly to keep the house in order. Times were hard, food was often scarce, yet she always found a way to keep her daughters safe and hopeful, to keep spirits high. Clara encouraged her sisters to share their dreams. Clara spoke first, saying she wished to become a writer and fill the world with her stories. Rose smiled and said she longed to be a painter and capture beauty on canvas. Elise confessed she wanted to open a little bakery one day, her voice trembling with both hope and fear. Finally, June whispered that she only wanted their father to come home soon. Just then, a knock sounded on the door. Their mother hurried to open it. A letter lay on the step. As she read it aloud, joy filled the room. Their father was safe, his words full of love and longing. Tears glistened in their eyes as hope warmed their hearts more than the fire ever could. The next morning, the sun barely peeked through the heavy clouds. The air inside the house was chilly, and their mother asked the girls to help tidy up the attic. June, being the smallest and most curious, eagerly climbed up the narrow, creaky steps. The attic was dim and filled with old trunks, broken furniture, and stacks of dusty blankets. Cobwebs hung like curtains from the beams, making it feel like a secret world untouched for years. As June explored, her foot hit something hard under a pile of faded quilts. Kneeling down, she pulled away the fabric and gasped when she uncovered a small wooden box with an iron latch. Its surface was scratched and worn, as though it had traveled through many hands and many years. Excited, she called for her sisters, her voice echoing through the rafters. Clara rose, and Elise scrambled up the stairs, their breath forming little clouds in the cold air. They gathered around June as Clara gently opened the box. Inside were stacks of yellowed letters tied with frayed ribbons. The sisters exchanged wide-eyed looks as Rose carefully picked one up and read the opening lines. The handwriting was delicate and old-fashioned, and the letters were signed by their grandmother, who had passed away years ago. As they read more, hints of a hidden treasure began to appear between the lines, along with secrets about their family's past that their mother had never mentioned. Clara's heart raced, imagining the story she could write about this mystery. The sisters swore to keep it a secret for now, unaware that this discovery would soon test their trust and change everything. Over the next few days, Clara read through the letters whenever she had a moment alone. One particular set of letters caught her attention. They spoke of a beautiful property their grandmother once owned, a house surrounded by gardens and tall oak trees. Yet there were hints that something tragic had happened. Their grandmother had given it all up suddenly before she passed away. The words were vague, almost as if the truth was too painful to write clearly. Clara's mind buzzed with questions, and she became certain there was more to this story than the letters revealed. Unable to hold back her curiosity, Clara decided to visit Mrs. Whitmore. the oldest woman in town and a close friend of their grandmother. She waited until the others were busy, then slipped on her shawl and sneaked quietly out into the frosty evening. Her boots crunched in the snow as she hurried down the winding road. Mrs. Whitmore welcomed her with surprise, listening carefully as Clara asked about the past. But the old woman's answers were cautious. She spoke of love and loss, of choices made to protect the family, leaving Clara even more determined to uncover the full truth. Meanwhile, back at home, Rose and Elise discovered Clara was gone and began arguing. Rose believed it was wrong to dig up the past, fearing it might hurt their mother, while Elise insisted that knowing their family's history could help them. June sat quietly between them, torn and frightened by their raised voices. Tension filled the house like a storm cloud ready to burst, and the unity they once shared began to crack. As Clara hurried back from Mrs. Whitmore's cottage, her mind swirling with unanswered questions, she kept her head down, hoping no one would notice her sneaking through the quiet, snowy streets. Just as she turned a corner, she nearly bumped into Liam, their quiet neighbor, who lived a few houses away. He was carrying a stack of books and looked at her with raised eyebrows. Clara froze, unsure of what to say. Liam had always seemed reserved and distant, the kind of person who preferred reading to talking. He glanced at her shawl and the hurried way she walked and asked gently if everything was all right. Clara hesitated, not wanting to share the family secret. But when he noticed the worn letter sticking out of her pocket, she realized lying would only make things worse. With a deep breath, she told him about the letters and the mystery of their grandmother's past. Liam listened carefully, his eyes lighting up with curiosity as she spoke. When Clara showed him one of the letters, he leaned closer, recognizing the old-fashioned handwriting and faded map sketched on the back. He offered to help her decipher the words and symbols, explaining that he loved puzzles and had studied old maps before. Clara was unsure at first, reluctant to trust someone outside her family. But as he patiently explained what certain marks and phrases meant, she began to see how valuable his help could be. Back at home, Rose noticed Clara slipping out more often, her cheeks flushed from the cold, and her expression strangely guarded. Suspicion began to grow in Rose's heart, and she silently vowed to find out what Clara was hiding. Snow fell steadily outside, blanketing the house in silence. But inside, tension brewed like a storm. Clara sat on her bed late in the evening, carefully slipping one of the oldest letters into her journal. She wanted to keep it safe, as it contained details about the map and the mysterious property. Just as she closed the journal, the door burst open, and Rose stood there, her eyes wide with anger. Rose demanded to know why Clara was hiding things from her sisters. Her voice sharp and trembling, Clara tried to explain that she was only protecting them, that she wanted to piece everything together before worrying everyone. But Rose refused to listen, accusing Clara of being selfish and secretive. Elise appeared in the doorway, alarmed by the shouting, while June peeked out from behind her, clutching her worn doll tightly. Their voices grew louder, filling the small room with hurt and frustration. Clara insisted she was doing this for the good of the family, that if they found the treasure, their struggles would finally end. Rose argued that trust was more important than treasure, tears glistening in her eyes. Elise tried to calm them, but her own fear of losing the fragile bond between them made her voice shake. Their mother finally entered, her presence bringing a brief hush. She spoke softly, reminding them that family was worth more than any amount of gold. But Clara's stubbornness kept her from backing down. In the midst of the chaos, June quietly slipped away. Taking one of the letters with her, she hid it beneath her pillow, unaware that her small act would lead to even greater trouble in the days to come. Clara met Liam near the edge of town just as the sun began to set, its pale light painting the snow in shades of gold and pink. Together they spread the remaining letters across a wooden bench, their breath rising in white clouds as they worked. Liam carefully studied the faded ink and rough sketches, pointing out symbols that Clara had overlooked. His calm voice gave her hope, and slowly the pieces began to fit together. At last, they managed to decipher the final letter. Clara's heart pounded as Liam explained that it spoke of a small chest, buried beneath an ancient tree near the old abandoned property their grandmother once owned. Clara felt a rush of excitement. This was the answer they had been waiting for. She clutched the letter tightly and hurried home, eager to share the discovery with her sisters. When she burst through the door, however, her excitement turned to shock. June sat on the rug, playing with her doll, but something felt off. Clara searched through the pile of letters, only to realize one was missing. The missing letter contained the exact location of the tree. Without it, finding the chest would be almost impossible. Clara's stomach twisted with dread as she demanded to know where it was. June's eyes widened with guilt, and she confessed she had hidden it after the fight. Afraid her sisters would keep arguing, the revelation forced them all to face the truth. They could only succeed if they worked together, though anger still lingered. They bundled up and retraced June's steps through the snowy paths, determined to recover the letter before anyone else discovered the secret first. The night was cold and wild, heavy snow falling in thick sheets as the sisters trudged through the woods, with Liam leading the way. The wind howled through the bare trees, and their lanterns flickered in the dark. June clung to Clara's hand, shivering but refusing to turn back. Their breaths came in sharp puffs of white as they followed the faded map, each step filling their hearts with both fear and excitement. Finally, they reached the ancient tree described in the letters, its twisted branches reaching toward the sky like old fingers. Liam knelt beside the roots and began clearing the snow while Clara and Rose helped, their numb hands working quickly. At last, Liam's shovel struck something solid, a dull, metallic sound rising above the howl of the wind. Everyone froze, then they began digging faster, until a small wooden chest emerged from beneath the frozen earth. Elise gasped as Clara carefully lifted the chest and opened it. The sisters leaned in, expecting glittering jewels or piles of gold. Instead, inside lay only a small stack of coins and a single folded letter. Disappointment crashed over them like a wave. Rose turned away in frustration, while Elise bit her lip to keep from crying. Clara unfolded the letter with trembling hands and began to read aloud. Their grandmother's words spoke of love, sacrifice, and a promise to help those less fortunate. She explained that the true inheritance was not wealth or land, but the duty to use what little they had to bring kindness into the world. Clara's eyes filled with tears as she read, feeling inspired yet conflicted, torn between her dreams and the responsibility her grandmother had left behind. The journey back home was silent. The sisters walked side by side through the deep snow, each lost in her own thoughts. When they finally reached the warm glow of their cottage, they gathered around the table, the small stack of coins lying between them. At first, no one spoke, the crackle of the fire filling the heavy silence. Then Rose broke it with a trembling voice, saying she wanted to use the money to buy paints and brushes so she could finally bring her dreams of being an artist to life. Elise quickly disagreed, her hands clasped tightly together. She explained how she had always dreamed of starting a bakery, how these coins could help her buy ingredients and tools to make it possible. Clara listened, her heart aching, before speaking firmly, saying that their grandmother's letter was clear. The money was meant to help others, not themselves. She wanted to donate it to a struggling family in town who had recently lost their home. The argument grew louder as each sister defended her dream. Rose's cheeks flushed with anger, Elise's eyes filled with tears, Clara's voice growing sharper with every word. June sat quietly at first, her small hands twisting nervously in her lap. Finally, she spoke softly, but with wisdom far beyond her years. She suggested they use a little of the money for their own hopes and give the rest to those in need. Clara hesitated, torn between her desire to honor their grandmother and her sister's wishes. Liam, who had been silent until now, gently reminded her that the best stories came from sacrifice and growth. His words struck a chord deep inside her, giving her the strength to face the difficult choice that lay ahead. The following morning, the sisters gathered around the table once more. The air was quiet, but no longer tense. Clara looked at her sisters, seeing the tiredness in their eyes and the love they still held for one another. She took a deep breath and said they should honor their grandmother's final wish completely. Rose and Elise hesitated, their dreams tugging at their hearts. But after a long silence, they both nodded, agreeing that helping someone in need was worth more than any personal desire. June smiled brightly, her small voice filled with relief as she whispered that their grandmother would be proud. Together they walked through the snow-covered streets. Liam joined them, carrying a small basket of food. They made their way to the edge of town, where a poor family had been living in a cold barn after their house burned down. The mother of that family cried when Clara handed her the coins, clutching them as if they were a miracle. The sisters helped carry blankets and supplies inside, their hearts warming as the family's gratitude filled the room like sunshine breaking through clouds. When they returned home, Clara sat by the fire with her journal. She began writing about their journey. Every moment, from finding the letters to uncovering the chest, poured onto the pages. She realized this might be the story that would become her first published work one day. Their mother listened quietly, tears glistening in her eyes as she told them how proud she was of their selflessness. That night, as they sat together, sipping warm broth, the sisters felt closer than ever before. Their dreams were still alive, but now they were bound by something even stronger: the joy of giving and the unshakable bond of family. The days slowly grew longer. The heavy snow began to melt, and tiny buds appeared on the trees, signaling the arrival of spring. Inside the small cottage, the sisters worked together to prepare for the new season. their hearts lighter after their recent decision. One bright morning, a knock came at the door. June rushed to open it and found a letter resting on the step. Clara unfolded it carefully, her hands trembling as she read the familiar handwriting. It was from their father, his words full of warmth and joy as he announced he was finally coming home. The house erupted with excitement. Rose laughed through her tears. Elise clapped her hands in delight, and June danced around the room. Even their mother's tired face lit up with happiness as she began making plans for his return. The cottage buzzed with life as they cleaned, cooked, and decorated. Each girl determined to make the home as welcoming as possible. Clara felt a glow in her chest, knowing that soon their family would be whole again. On the night before their father's arrival, they gathered around the fire as they had so many times before. Clara opened one of their grandmother's old letters and began to read aloud, her voice soft and steady. The words spoke of love, sacrifice, and the strength of family. As Clara finished, she looked at her sisters and realized how much they had all grown through their journey. The four sisters clasped hands, their eyes shining with hope and courage, ready to face the future together, no matter what challenges lay ahead. As the fire crackled warmly beside them and the promise of spring filled the air,